In the defendant's box sat a man they saw as just another threat in an orange jumpsuit. But Captain Isaac Kane was far from ordinary. He was a weapon, coiled and silent, patiently watching his enemies move into the kill zone. Theatrics were for amateurs. He was a professional, and the operation had just begun. Upstairs, District Attorney Preston Croft watched the news vans cluster on the courthouse steps like vultures. He could already taste the victory. He turned to his nervous young assistant. "Get down there," Croft commanded. "Tell them I'll deliver a full statement after the hearing. And for the love of God, make sure they frame my face away from the protesters." The assistant clutched a manila folder. "Sir, I've reviewed his file 4 times. Captain Isaac Kane has a flawless service record, not even a speeding ticket. This whole imminent danger angle feels forced." Croft let out a short, sharp bark of a laugh. "His record?" He closed the distance to the younger man, his voice a low growl. "You think a jury gives a damn about his record?" He jabbed a finger toward the window. "They'll look at a man like that, and they will see exactly what I tell them to see. Another angry agitator from the slums who got his hands on a weapon he can't be trusted with." He leaned in close, a cruel smirk playing on his lips. "We'll feed them a story about radical cells and domestic terror. The media will eat from my hand. This isn't a case, son. It's my promotion, my stepping stone to the state capitol." Down in the courtroom, the air was thick with a cocktail of fear and morbid curiosity. Captain Isaac Kane sat perfectly still, his posture ramrod straight despite the glaring orange jumpsuit. The cold steel of the handcuffs was just another environmental stressor to be ignored. Preston Croft performed for the judge, his voice booming with fake authority. "Your Honor, we stand here today because this man was caught with an arsenal designed for a battlefield," he thundered, gesturing dismissively at Kane. "A custom-built, long-range rifle, armor-penetrating ammunition, military-grade tactical equipment." Whispers rippled through the gallery. "Where does a guy like that get that kind of money?" one woman hissed. A man beside her muttered, "Getting way too bold if you ask me." His public defender, Aaron Cole, felt sweat bead on his brow. "Croft is burying him alive, and he's giving me absolutely nothing," Cole thought, pure panic clawing at his throat. He just sits there, letting it happen. He shakily rose to his feet, his voice barely a squeak. "Your Honor, my client is exercising his constitutional right to remain silent." Croft spun around, his face a mask of practiced disbelief. "The right to remain silent?" he mocked, letting the words hang in the air. He laughed. "Or is it just a convenient excuse when you can't explain why an unemployed man is preparing for his own private war?" Kane's expression didn't change, but his eyes narrowed. He wasn't just watching. He was assessing a threat. "Keep talking, Mr. Croft," he thought, his mind as cold and clear as ice. "Every lie is another foot of rope. I'll give you more than enough to hang yourself with." From the bench, Judge Samuel Pierce, a Fallujah veteran, studied the defendant, his brow furrowed in deep concern. "Mr. Kane," he said, his voice heavy, "you're looking at federal charges that carry a 20-year minimum. Do you truly understand the gravity of that?" "I understand perfectly, Your Honor," Kane replied. His voice was calm and steady, an island of pure composure in the storm of chaos Croft was deliberately creating. In the front row, reporter Jenna Sharp's thumbs were a blur across her phone's screen. "Forget armed and dangerous," she thought, a jolt of raw ambition running through her. The headline is practically writing itself. "Domestic threat looms in Harbor Point. This story is my ticket to the network." Croft wasn't finished. He grabbed a large evidence photo of the rifle. "This isn't for deer hunting, Your Honor," he roared, shoving the photo toward the jury box. "This is the weapon of a political extremist, an urban terrorist. We demand bail be denied. This man is a clear and present danger to every citizen in this county." Aaron Cole leaped up with a feeble objection, but Croft had already won the moment. He stood there, soaking in the fear he'd manufactured, a smug, triumphant grin plastered on his face. He was in total control, or so he thought. Later in a hallway, Gunny Seiler cornered the exhausted public defender. "You need to listen to me," Seiler said, his eyes blazing with intensity. "That prosecutor just made the biggest mistake of his career. And your client, he's letting him do it." "It's an ongoing case," Cole stammered, his voice shot. "I'm not asking for case details," Seiler pressed, his voice low and urgent. "I'm giving you intelligence. Your client has advanced military training. I mean extremely advanced. If I'm right about what I saw in there, you're dealing with an operator this entire state has never seen? Cole just stared, the absolute conviction in the veteran's eyes shaking him. What are you trying to say? I'm saying, Sailor stated, you need to ask yourself why a man that highly trained stays completely silent when one phone call could make all this disappear. Inside the Crestfall County Jail, Captain Kane operated with military discipline. Up at 0500, a brutal workout in his cell, then meditation. The rest of the day was spent on observation. Guard rotations, inmate power structures, facility blind spots. It's strange, Officer Miller told his partner. Most new inmates are either terrified or trying to prove something. This guy, he's different. It's like he's just waiting. The following evening, Aaron Cole and Gunny Seiler sat in the jail's bleak visiting room. When Kane entered, his gaze went straight to the gunny. A silent current of recognition passed between the two men. How many tours? Seiler asked, cutting straight to the point. Is that relevant to my case? Kane replied, his posture subtly altering, becoming even more rigid. 4 tours, Kandahar. Marine gunny, Seiler stated flatly. I've seen special operators work. I know the look. The tense silence was finally broken by a completely lost Aaron Cole. Can somebody please tell me what the hell is going on? Captain Kane looked past his lawyer and locked eyes with the old Marine. A real gunny knows, Kane said, his voice low and even, that some missions require you to maintain radio silence, even while taking heavy fire. I also know there are emergency protocols for when an operator's cover is blown, Seiler countered, his jaw tight. Channels that have to be activated. Kane leaned forward slightly. The movement was barely perceptible, but it carried immense weight. And what happens, Gunny, when you suspect the emergency channel itself is the one being compromised? The question hit Seiler like a physical blow. He fell silent, his mind racing as he was forced to reconsider the entire situation from a far more dangerous angle. The next morning, Preston Croft, high on his newfound media fame, doubled down. He went on every local news station to announce a joint federal task force to investigate the defendant's deep-seated connections to a radical extremist network. Jenna Sharp's article, retitled Inside the Plot, Extremist Ties Exposed, went viral. That night, Gunny Seiler made a call to a number he hadn't dialed in over a decade. Bishop, it's Seiler, he said into the phone. I need you to run a name. No, I can't say more over the phone. Just do it. On the third night, a frantic Aaron Cole visited the jail alone. Kane, Seiler thinks you're a ghost, a high-level asset. He thinks this case is a hornet's nest bigger than any of us can possibly imagine. Kane's expression remained unreadable. And what do you think, Mr. Cole? I think you're letting all of this happen on purpose, when he stammered. A ghost of a smile, cold and sharp, touched Kane's lips. Sometimes the best way to trap a predator, he said calmly, is to let him think you're the prey. Right up until the moment the cage door slammed shut. Late that same night, Seiler's phone rang. A blocked number. The voice on the other end was gravelly and serious. Gunny, you need to stand down. Stop asking questions about the man in Crestfall County. You are poking at things you can't begin to understand. Bishop, just confirm it for me, Seiler pleaded. Is he who I think he is? A long, heavy pause followed. Seiler, the voice returned, laced with a dire warning. If you value your life, and more importantly his, you will stop digging. Stand down. That's an order. As Preston Croft slept the sound, arrogant sleep of a man who believed his own lies, he had no idea he'd spent the last 72 hours poking a lion. And when a warrior trained to neutralize threats to national security decides you have become one, your career isn't just over. It's set for public demolition. On the morning of the 4th day, Croft stood before a packed press conference, basking in the glow of the cameras. This was to be his coronation. I can now officially confirm, he announced, his voice filled with phony gravitas, that our investigation has uncovered this defendant as a key figure in a terrorist financing ring. Jenna Sharp typed furiously, her heart hammering against her ribs. This headline would shatter records. Croft smiled, savoring his moment. This has now become a matter of national security, he declared. We will not permit these radical forces to... His voice was abruptly buried by a deafening whump, whump, whump. Every head in the room snapped toward the windows. 2 sleek, black MH-60 Black Hawk helicopters were descending on the courthouse plaza, their rotors kicking up a cyclone of dirt and debris. They were followed by a silent, menacing motorcade of black government SUVs. Men in full military dress uniforms poured out, moving with the terrifying, synchronized precision of a combat unit. Croft faltered, his bravado vanishing like smoke. As I was saying, at that exact second, Aaron Cole's phone vibrated. "Mr. Cole," a clipped, no-nonsense voice said, "this is Colonel Matthews from the Office of the Judge Advocate General. Do not let your client be moved. Do not let him sign a single document. A 4-star general is entering your courthouse as we speak." Back at the press conference, Croft tried to regain control, but the main auditorium doors were thrown open with a deafening bang. General Aniston Drake entered. The 4 stars on her shoulders glittered like chips of ice. She was flanked by a team of stone-faced senior officers, and a dead absolute silence crushed the room. Her voice sliced through the air like a blade. "Where is Captain Kane?" Preston Croft's face went white. Captain? I don't understand. We have a suspected terrorist in our custody." General Drake pinned him with a look of pure, unadulterated contempt. "Mr. Croft, you have just made the most catastrophic, career-ending blunder I have ever had the misfortune to witness," she said, her voice dangerously quiet. "That suspect is one of the most decorated operators in the United States Armed Forces." An aide in a crisp uniform silently handed a classified file to Judge Pierce. The judge's eyes went wide as he read the cover. "My God," he breathed. "Captain Isaac Kane," the general announced to the stunned room, her voice ringing with authority. "Recipient of the Distinguished Service Cross, the Bronze Star with Valor. A man who has successfully completed over 100 covert missions. A counterterrorism expert who has saved more American lives than you will ever read about." Croft sputtered. "But he wouldn't identify himself. He refused. Because he was on a deep-cover classified mission, you arrogant fool," the general snapped, her voice dripping with disgust. "Operation Tarnished Shield, a mission specifically designed to identify intelligence leaks and systemic corruption in local law enforcement. A test to see what would happen when a decorated black officer was found with military-grade equipment." She locked her icy gaze onto the prosecutor. "And congratulations, Mr. Croft. You showed the Pentagon exactly where the rot is. You passed our test with flying colors." Crack. The sound of Jenna Sharp's cell phone hitting the marble floor echoed in the stunned silence. Her career had just imploded along with it. Judge Pierce staggered to his feet. "General, on behalf of this court, I offer my most profound apologies." "Your apology is accepted, Your Honor. You operated on the information you were given," General Drake replied, before turning her glacial gaze back to Preston Croft. "But others here shamelessly turned justice into a political sideshow." At that moment, Captain Kane was escorted in. No handcuffs. His posture was transformed. Shoulders back, chin high, his eyes burning with an authority that could command armies. "Captain Kane," General Drake said formally, "I regret the treatment you endured. Your sacrifice for this operation has been noted at the highest levels." "Thank you, General," Kane replied, his voice crisp. Mission accomplished. Preston Croft watched in abject horror as the cameras he had summoned for his own coronation swiveled to capture every angle of his complete and utter humiliation. Gunnery Sergeant Seiler, tears welling in his eyes, approached the captain. "I knew it," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for your service, sir." Kane gave him a firm, respectful nod. "Thank you for yours, Gunny." The general then addressed the shell-shocked press. "Let me be perfectly clear," she boomed. "Captain Kane is an American hero. Anyone in the media who used this illegal arrest for clicks and headlines will answer to Joint Command." Preston Croft's political ambitions died right there on the courthouse floor, buried under the weight of his own televised bigotry. He had tried to build his career on the back of a hero, and in doing so, had exposed himself as the very rot the mission was sent to find. 3 months later, a formal ceremony was held at the Joint Command Center. In the front row sat Gunnery Sergeant Seiler and Aaron Cole, guests of honor. On stage, General Drake pinned the Meritorious Command Medal onto the uniform of the newly promoted Major Isaac Kane. "Prejudice isn't just wrong," Major Kane said in a short, powerful address broadcast live. "It's a tactical liability. When you underestimate your opponent because of the color of their skin, you've already lost." That wasn't just a moral failure in Crestfall County. It was a strategic failure that put this nation at risk. As the audience of generals erupted in applause, The broadcast played on a small, greasy television in the corner of a burger joint 2 states away. "Croft," a pimply-faced manager yelled. "Table 6 is a pigsty. Get on it." Kirkwood Croft, his face gaunt, shuffled out with a wet rag. He wiped down a sticky table as the hero he tried to destroy was celebrated on screen. He looked at his own hands, once destined to shake hands with governors, now smelling of cheap disinfectant. In a dark apartment, Jenna Sharp sat alone, her face lit by her phone. She had just posted an article about container gardening. The comments were not about plants. "Aren't you the terrorist plot fake news hack? You ruined your career for a lie? Do us all a favor and delete your account." The sound of the applause for Major Kane from her laptop mixed with the hateful comments on her phone, a perfect symphony of her public ruin. Back at the ceremony, a reporter called out, "Major, was this justice or revenge?" Major Kane looked at his new medal, then his eyes found Siler in the crowd. "Revenge is an emotion," he said, his voice ringing with clarity. "Justice is a result." After the ceremony, he walked directly to the old Marine and pressed a heavy bronze coin into his hand. It was his personal challenge coin. "A real veteran always knows," he said quietly. Siler looked from the coin to the man before him, a true American hero. He gave a single proud nod. Justice had been served.